Good day, brothers and sisters. It's your brother Rams here, and I first and foremost want to say happy Martin Luther King Jr. birthday, one of the greatest black men in American history. Uh, this isn't just black history, this is American history. And Martin Luther King played a very vital role in the history of America. So before I get started, I just want to say thank you again to all my listeners and supporters out there. I appreciate all that your comments and stuff that you've written to me, and I'll continue my podcast and keep trying to enlighten folks on how we can live together in the 21st century, and from everybody, black, white, and everybody in between, because eventually we're going to have to live together, and we've got to come to that reality that no one's going to eliminate no one. So, again, happy MMLK Jr. birthday today. I hope you celebrated with some somber thought about the man. I'm going to give you a little bit about Martin Luther King Jr. and some of the things that had happened in his life, and show the importance of him today. But more important, the title of this is going to be Martin Luther King Jr. What would he say about America today? That's the title of this. Martin Luther King Jr. What would he say about America today? All right, but first I'm gonna give you some background on Martin Luther King. Actually, first of all, he was born to the parents of Martin Luther King Sr., and his mother was Alberta Williams King. That was his mama. Those were his parents. MLK Jr. was born. Actually, his name was Michael. It was Michael King, and he was born January 15th, 1929. And unfortunately, he was assassinated April 4th, 1968. Okay? He married Coretta in 1953. His children are Yolanda, Martin III, Dexter, and Bernice. Those are his children. What was his occupation? He was a Baptist minister and a civil rights activist. Keep hold of that word civil rights, because this is going to come up a little bit later when I discuss him and Malcolm X a little bit. Okay? But again, he actually was born Michael King, but his name was turned to Martin Luther King. And again, he studied the Bible a lot, and a very spiritual brother. Very, very spiritual brother. One of the most powerful, again, men in America. So again, we'll take a hat off to him. And again, his occupation was a Baptist minister, and he was a civil rights activist that emphasized nonviolence. Okay, that emphasized nonviolence. Let's look at his education. He went to Morehouse College, all black school. Got to tip my hat off to that. Because remember, we weren't allowed to go to many of them colleges back then. No white colleges, no way. You needed an act of Congress, of the National Guard. Remember James Meredith? All right, in Mississippi, we had to bring in the National Guard to give black folks a chance to go to school. Because remember, what do I always say? Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. You're 3/5 of a human. That's what the Constitution says. And that's why educating the black man has been a real difficult situation here in America. And that's why I emphasize the teaching of our own children. Because as I'll talk to you a bit later about it, why that's critical and it's vital. But Martin Luther King, his education, he got it from Morehouse College, got his BA. Then he went to Crozier Theological Seminary, and he got his bachelor's in divinity school. Okay, and then from there, he came up to Boston University, where he got his PhD. Okay, that's why he's called Dr. King. He got his PhD from BU. All right, he's some of his awards. I like saying this one. He got the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. He got it. Nobody gave him the trophy. That was pitiful, brothers and sisters. It was. You know, it was real pitiful. And to my sister Machado, I understand the good nature in your blessing. I understand you wanted to do something nice, and that's a beautiful thing. That shows the nature and kindness in your heart to give him your award. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depends how you look at it, the people who give that award says it can't be transferred. That doesn't change who won the award. And Donald Trump was trying to say he should have got the Nobel Peace Prize. Think about this. Mischief maker, bloodshedder should get a peace prize. Well, I stopped 8 wars. Most of them wars hadn't even got into war. So if you look it up, see again, he exaggerates and many times he lies. The major wars he hasn't stopped. Israel and Palestine, he hasn't stopped that. They're still fighting over there like a monster. But they just make sure that they don't tell you about it. They're still bombing them people. They're still starving them people. And right now it's the coldest part of the year over there. Okay? Where you gonna sleep? Where you gonna live? There's no water. There's no electricity. There's nothing there. So how did you negotiate peace there? By bombing the other person into smithereens? And I'm gonna tell you right now, brothers and sisters, they got generations and generations of Palestinians that have some serious hate toward Israel. Has some serious hate toward Israel, and as a result, like I said, by their troublemaking, mischief-making policies, Netanyahu's now made it very unsafe for especially white Israelis to travel around the world. That's why you saw that situation there in Australia there. Okay? That's why you saw that situation in Australia, and there's going to be more of it. Unfortunately, there is. Because when you bomb a people and starve a people and shoot people, nothing good's going to happen to you. And God is never, 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 ever happy with those who make mischief and shed blood. God is a peacemaker. That's the nature of God, peace. So that's why Donald Trump, you don't get the Nobel Peace Prize. Even though our sister Machado tried to give you a gesture of kindness and say, here, take mine. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Kevin Garnett, played for the Boston Celtics. He didn't win. He hadn't won a championship yet. And Bill Russell got 11 rings. God rest his soul. Got 11 rings. He went to Kevin and said, here, you can use one of mine. You can have one of mine. But like the gracious man that Kevin Garnett still is, he's still alive. He said, no, I'm not taking it. I got to earn mine. See, that's a real man. I'm going to earn mine. And eventually he did. In 2008, he earned his own championship. So just because that was a good gesture by Bill Russell, was a good gesture by that sister Machado, it doesn't change the fact that that's not your ring. It's not yours. You think you deserved it. You didn't deserve it because God said you don't deserve it. And that's why you didn't get it. What's supposed to be for you, God will make it for you. If it's supposed to be. If it's not supposed to be for you, God will make sure you damn sure don't get it. But now that might be for several reasons. It might be good for you. It might be something that could hurt you. So God's wisdom is always the best. Okay? So his education, he got a PhD from BU. All right? Look at some of his awards. Like I said, he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Homeboy Trump hates the fact he ain't won one. And he won't win one. I guarantee you that. He can cry his eyes out. He won't win one. The second one was the Presidential Medal of Freedom that was awarded in 1977, obviously posthumously. But again, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously in 1977, Martin Luther King. He won the Congressional Gold Medal again in 1977, posthumously. That, brothers and sisters, that means after you're dead, they still give you an award. Okay? So that was a beautiful thing for the brother. Martin Luther King was an advocate of nonviolent civil rights protests for black integration into American society. His nonviolent protests led to the signing of two key pieces of legislation for the black men in America. The first one was the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and because he did that, that's why that led to him receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. He was instrumental in the signing of that by Lyndon B. Johnson. And then a year later, the Voting Rights Act came up in 1965. And again, Martin Luther King was a key part of that. But the Civil Rights Act was part of the 14th Amendment. Now, you've heard me mention this a number of times. There were certain amendments that were supposed to eliminate the 3/5 clause. And what's the 3/5 clause again? What do I always tell you? It's Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. And that was supposed to mitigate that 3/5 clause, but it never did because it was supposed to give birthright citizenship. It automatically gives you citizenship, full citizenship. But it contradicted what the Article 1, Section 2 was saying, because they said the Negro's 3/5 of a human. So they wrote the 14th Amendment to sort of negate that. But because it was never enforced, and I've said this over and over again, it's never been enforced. And because it's not enforced, that's the reason why we still struggle with civil rights. And I'm going to talk about that in Martin Luther King in a minute. All right? And then voting rights came in 1965. Again, from Martin Luther King. Very powerful black man in America. Very, very powerful. So I take my hat off to the brother. He got some powerful legislation enacted to better situation for the black folks here in America. So I just want to say that to you, brothers and sisters. I want to say that to you. Got some more of my notes here. Oh, yeah. But one of the things that our brother struggled with, Martin Luther King, like I said, I love the brother. But I came up in a different kind of era than that. But before I get to that, Martin Luther King, back in the day, in the 60s, the early 60s, remember, his issue was civil rights. He was a civil rights activist. And our brother, Malcolm X, he constantly debated Martin Luther King over this issue. And I've had a podcast on it myself, civil rights versus human rights. Martin Luther King was hoping for civil rights. But unfortunately, if you notice over time, we still haven't got those civil rights. You know why you haven't gotten civil rights? Because you don't have human rights. See, the Constitution, again, that Article 1 says you're not human. So to get civil rights before you get human rights is utterly ridiculous, because you're not going to get them because you're not recognized as human. I'll say that again. You don't get civil rights unless you have human rights. And that's why I said, if you keep labeling your struggle civil rights, you'll never get anything. Because why? I've said this on my podcast. It stays in the jurisdiction of America. You can't ask your Muslim brother. You can't ask your African brother. You can't ask no one outside of America's borders to help you. It may seem to you that black, brown, and people have not come to our rescue. They can't, because you keep calling your struggle civil rights. It's not a civil rights struggle. It's a human rights, because the Constitution has labeled you as 3/5 of a human. Stand up now and understand this, black people. You will never get civil rights in America because you will never be recognized as human as long as that 3/5 clause is there. It defines your place in America. Whether you want to believe it or not, it permeates every aspect of our society. There's discrimination and inequality in each part of our society. Healthcare, education, crime, politics, redistricting. What's that about? Again, that's a chance to lessen the black vote, to mitigate the black vote. Redistricting. Again, your right to vote, 1965 voting rights. Still been an issue for you, black man. Still been an issue. Civil rights, still been an issue because you're calling your struggle civil rights. And there's some strange reason you haven't been able to get civil rights the first. They constantly violate your civil rights because they know that you're only considered 3/5. So you don't have the same rights as the whole human. That's the mathematics behind inequality. Not saying that math is unfair. I'm just saying that's inequality in itself. Okay? That's important to understand. So Malcolm and Martin had that issue, because Malcolm was saying, if you're willing to disarm the Negro, then you need to go ahead and go to Vietnam and disarm some of them. You need to go to Russia and disarm some of them. But you're disarming the Negro against his basic right. And what's his basic right? He has the right to defend himself. Every living thing has the right to defend himself. And as you know, Malcolm's famous thing is, by any means necessary. So I'm going to give you a little perspective on where I came from when I was coming up during that time of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. I understood the nonviolent thing, but I couldn't get with that. See, I grew up in the era of Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, where black people turn the other cheek thing was, no, no, no. I'm not turning the other cheek. I'm going to defend myself. I have the right to defend myself. And Malcolm made it clear. But who was Malcolm? Malcolm was a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Let me say that again. He was a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You also know some of his other famous students. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You know Muhammad Ali. These are famous students of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I say to you, black man, study the teacher. Yes, take the word of his students, of course. But study the teacher. Study the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Remember, he was taught by God himself. What do you mean he's taught by God, Don? What are you talking about? Listen, brother and sister, I'm giving you some knowledge from an Asiatic black man. He was taught by the Master Farad Muhammad for 3.5 years. Master Farad Muhammad. He came and taught the Elijah Muhammad for 3.5 years, and then he left. He gave him the teachings to pass on. So as I say, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is one of the greatest teachers in history, period. A little old humble man from Sandersville, Georgia. But that's important to understand. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Great teacher. Now I'm going to pivot into something that's heavy right now. Did you know, brothers and sisters, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Martin Luther King met? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Martin Luther King met. And they had a meeting. They had a meeting, brothers and sisters. And now I'm going to give you some knowledge here about this meeting between two great spiritual leaders. Two great spiritual leaders, brothers and sisters. This meeting changed King's philosophy. When was it? They met, brothers and sisters, in February 24th, 1966. They met February 24th, 1966. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Martin Luther King. And they met in the home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And this is according to Minister Farrakhan. but it's also it's documented facts. According to Minister Farrakhan, the two sat like brothers. They got along as two brothers should. These are two powerful men, brothers. Martin Luther King, spiritual leader. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, spiritual leader. Sitting down as brothers. In what? They sitting down in unity. Uh-oh, there's that word. What do you mean, unity? Yes, it's called Kwanzaa. Remember that? It's called umoja, unity. What is the biggest fear of the Caucasian brothers and sisters in America? The biggest fear of our Caucasian brothers and sisters is your unity. Your unity is more dangerous than anything in the world. And you can take that or let it alone. But they met as brothers. Okay? The Honorable, Dr. King asked the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because at the time the doctrine was, he was saying that the white people were devils. Okay? He said they were devils. And as a Christian, he said, well, are all white people devils? And then the Honorable Elijah Muhammad basically explained to him this. He said, me and you are both from the South. Okay, we both from the South. Let's take a look at that. And we're both from Georgia. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says to him, we know that there's some snakes in Georgia that are poisonous, like the rattlesnake. Very poisonous snake in the South and especially in Georgia, where they both were from. Remember, Martin Luther King from Georgia, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from Georgia. They're two Southern brothers. So some snakes are poisonous. Some snakes aren't. Like the king snake down there. He's not poisonous. There are some white people who hate you with a passion. I have to say that about my Caucasian brothers because their actions have proven it. So I don't have to verify it. You've seen their actions. They hate you with a passion because of the color of your skin. And then there's some white people who will tolerate you. That's the key word. They will tolerate you. Okay? But in the end, a snake is a snake. And that's what he was trying to let Martin Luther King know. Okay? There were two main points. There were two main points that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted Martin Luther King to get that he took away from their meeting. That the fight for integration is hypocritical. Uh-oh, what do you mean hypocritical? Yeah. The fight for integration is hypocritical. That's why the Muslims didn't participate in that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad kept his followers safe because he saw the brutality that Martin Luther King faced. Think about what he faced, man. He getting hit by, getting attacked by dogs, getting hit by clubs and rocks and bottles, getting spat on, having high pressure hoses sprayed on them. Now, let me tell you a little something about a high pressure hose. Take your hand, go to the sink, and turn on the faucets full blast. If you notice how it hits your hand, it kind of got a little pressure, little sting to it. Now, imagine a high pressure hose from one you use to put out a real fire. Hit you in the back, hit you in the legs. You've seen the damn photographs. You've seen the videos of how people huddling, getting sprayed and knocked down the damn street. Don't act like you didn't see it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't want his people to be involved in that type of movement because he said integration was used to deceive our people. Okay? It was used to deceive our people because the issue is how could the open enemy for freedom, justice, and equality for over 400 years. The Caucasian brothers and sisters were the enemies of freedom, justice, and equality for our people. They were the enemies of it. And then all of a sudden, he now is your friend. Don't trust that. You can't trust that because it's not right. And that's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had to explain to Dr. King. Okay? He had to explain that to Dr. King. That this integration thing, it's not going to work. And if you look at it today, has it really worked? Think about it. Look at how America has treated the black man again today. Look how the black man is treating them today. Okay? What the Honorable Elijah Muhammad also said was, for not only does the integration thing don't work, the Muslims have a program to bring about the uplifting of the black man. And this program, in other words, is our plan. Don't join on to that plan, because that plan is nothing but foolishness. And again, it's got you chasing a dream of civil rights instead of your human rights that God gave you. No man can tell you what right you have. That's why I get disturbed when I hear that 3/5 and the rationalization from our Caucasian brothers as to why it was so. There's no rational. You can't rationalize my damn humanity, man. You crazy as a bedbug. You crazy as a bedbug. You cannot rationalize my humanity. You cannot. Because God gave me that right. So that's what I'm saying to you, brothers. That's important. Okay? Come up with a plan of your own. Self-determination. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Sounds like a Kwanzaa principle. It's called Kujitalia. Self-determination. You determine your future. You determine where you're headed. Don't join on to some other man's program. Create your own. That's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about do for self and kind. Again, one of the most powerful men in America. But he sat down with Martin Luther King. What did that do? It changed him drastically. It changed him, brothers and sisters. He changed his whole political view, his rhetoric, and especially when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who, like I said, was taught by God who appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad about the origin of the Caucasian race. The origin of the Caucasian race and the nature of the Caucasian. These are things that Martin Luther King had no clue of. Now, it was a closed door meeting, but there were people outside the door listening. And one of his brothers from Boston, very powerful Muslim brother, his name is Minister Don. He was out there, and was along with Minister Farrakhan, they were out there. And one of the things they keep mentioning, and I've heard them mention it several times, is that, Martin Luther King had like a heavy, powerful voice. Even when he just talked normal, it was just power. Okay? But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was different. He had a calm kind of voice. Not saying that Dr. King wasn't calm, but he had a more of a lower voice, but he was spitting knowledge. And all you heard Dr. King kept saying was, if I had only known, if I had only known. That's what he kept saying. That's what they heard in all ways. If I had only known. Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was pulling his coat to the situation with this integration. And that's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad kept the followers away from that movement. And that's why you saw the rise of Malcolm X, a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I want to talk about just briefly here, what would Dr. King say today? And I can imagine, of course, it's only speculation, but looking at his philosophy and how he treated people, he couldn't be happy. With the rise of white supremacy in his Project 2025, how the president cussing and calling black and brown people all kind of names, calling them rapists, murderers, the Mexican people, the vice president saying that the Haitian people are eating the people's dogs and stuff. That comes from what? Martin Luther King. You think he'd be happy listening to that? He dealt with racist presidents. He dealt with racist governors. You know George Wallace. You know the governor of Mississippi. He dealt with them. And that's something I want to say to you, brothers and sisters, that this is very important. Martin Luther King would not be happy. He would cry because he would say, what has happened here to America? What has happened to America? So I'm going to talk about some events and some speeches, but I'm still going to bring that back home. I'm still going to bring up what he would say or do. And I'm going to start with the first one, the one that most people know about. And the first one is in 1963, the famous March on Washington. That's the one with I Have a Dream speech. I have a dream. Now, that speech there is very powerful because he was thinking about an America living up to its values and its promises. But what I want to point out at that time, when you saw that crowd on Washington Mall in 1963, you saw a lot of our Caucasian brothers there of goodwill and good faith. Lots of them, tens of thousands of them. Tens and thousands of goodwill white people. You know what Dr. King would say? Where are they at today? And I'd say, Dr. King, they've grown eerily silent. They were silent when black history was attacked. They stayed silent on these foolish ICE raids. They stayed silent on the kidnapping of another president from another country to steal his oil. Where President Trump said, you know, I'd rather have some Norwegians and Swedish people come over. I'll invite them white Afrikaners. They can come here, but not no blacks. Remember, he called Africa a country of shit countries. Shithole country, excuse me. And I don't want to swear, because I've got young people listening to this thing too. But that's what he called them. Martin Luther King would be pleased with that. Hearing the president's vulgarity come out of his mouth. And then the Republicans, well, we need to tamp this down. Tell the damn fish at the top to tamp it down. But they won't because they're too damn scared. This is what you're dealing with. This is what you're dealing with, brothers and sisters. Martin Luther King coming back, seeing that the president cut off food and had the SNAP program tied up, not letting the babies get vaccinated, measles breaking out all over the country. Look at the measles breaking out, man. I'll tell you right now, that comes from the Republicans. I'll say it because I'm not afraid to say it because I'll tell the truth. They started this anti-vaccine foolishness with COVID. And then that nitwit HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr., anti-vaxxer, even though his kids got vaccinated, his cousin Caroline told him his kids got vaccinated. That's called being a hypocrite. That's Robert Kennedy Jr. He done changed the vaccine schedule for babies and kids, little kids. It becomes, well, if you want to do it, if not. No, it can't be that. It can't be that because a lot of these ignorant folks won't get vaccinate their children. And now, guess what? Outbreak of measles. Whoever heard of some damn outbreak of measles in the United States when it was all about eradicated by the turn of 2000? It was already just about eradicated, damn it. And what started it again? Two nitwit governors. I'll tell you their names: Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott of Texas. If anyone make you get a vaccine, we're gonna punish them. So it made the people hesitant about getting a vaccine to save their own children. So now measles is running rampant. South Carolina, Texas, spread up north a little bit, but not as bad up north. Because why? A lot of people they do get their kids vaccinated, and that's a key factor. That's a key factor, brothers and sisters. Okay? They get their kids vaccinated. But again, some of his famous speech was I have a dream speech. Okay? I have a dream. And what he was talking about was America living up to its moral values by what it said in the Constitution. And again, like I said, there was tens of thousands of white people of goodwill. Where are they at now? That's what Martin Luther King would say. If he came back today, if he was alive today, where have you gone? And now they've become complicit by doing what? By being silent. Back then, they were willing to risk it all for black folks' freedom, justice, and equality. In 1963, March on Washington. And it resulted in the Civil Rights Act and then the Voting Rights Act. So something positive legislatively came out of that. But again, I say, where are all the goodwill white people? That's what the doctor would say, that used to march with us and want freedom, justice, and equality for everybody. You don't see that no more. Project 2025 is about to return to white supremacy. And yeah, Dr. King dealt with white supremacy. You notice that. Think about it. Think about it. In Mississippi, in Arkansas, remember the Arkansas 9? Of course, you remember governors. You know your good friend George Wallace, stone cold redneck. But again, Martin Luther King dealt with these people. A great, great brother. Honor him and never forget. Because pretty soon, the way these things going, they're going to paint Martin Luther King white in a little while. They're going to paint him white and try to obliterate him from the books. They can't. And they won't. Too powerful, brothers and sisters. Too powerful. But after meeting with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pulling his coat to a lot of things that he really wasn't aware of. In the New Amsterdam News, that was a black newspaper. It's just they're still running around, still in print. It's called the New Amsterdam News. King lamented and was deeply disturbed that since he fought hard and long for integration, and he believed in integration, but after he met with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he came to believe that we were integrating into a burning house. Whoa! We were integrating into the burning house when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we have our own program to uplift our people. We're going to do for self. We're going to do for our kind. Same thing in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Same thing in Rosewood, Florida. Same thing. Same thing in out by Chicago, the Robbins Airport. Remember? Them aviators got themselves together and built their own airport. Remember, the Honorable Marcus Garvey's famous saying was what? Up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. So I'm saying this to you, brother. What else would Martin Luther King say? Look at the housing situation. Still segregated as hell because of redlining and redistricting. Putting black people in a certain place. Still segregation. De facto segregation. You live here, but we ain't telling you that this is the only place you can live. These are things that Martin Luther King faced when he was alive. Still facing, black folks still facing it to this very day. It's a disgrace. It's a sheer disgrace. Look at our healthcare system. With all the advances in technology, black women still dying giving childbirth at alarming numbers. With all this technology, Dr. King would say, well, how? How is that possible? Because their health care isn't considered important. Again, that 3/5 clause permeating in health care, prenatal care. We know it's effective. It's in effect with what? The criminal justice system. Black man, white man do the same crime. Black man gonna get a lot more time than the Caucasian. Because remember, the black man's 3/5 of a human. He's not human. So that's important. So as I say, brother, Dr. Martin Luther King, what would he say if he came back today and looked at America? Donald Trump waging war with our enemies, longtime allies. Waging war, that's mischief making. He's threatened to take over Greenland. And all those who disagree with him, he's hitting them with extra tariffs. Tell me that's not mischief making. And like I said, our sister Machado, she tried to extend a blessing to him by giving him her Nobel Peace Prize. But Miss Machado, God didn't want him to have it. He didn't want him to have it. Out of the goodness of your heart, you thought it would might change things. But this is a guy who's an egomaniac. He only cares about one person, and that's him. And that's what we all must understand. What else would Dr. King say? He'd say, black people, you done went to sleep. Ah, brother man, you weren't supposed to say that. Oh, yeah, you have. You've gone to sleep. You've gone to sleep. You think you've made it. Now you see you haven't made it. That what? Freedom ain't free. It's going to cost you. It's a constant fight. Because there are those who don't want you to have that freedom because they still see you as 3/5 of a human. So Martin Luther King, like I said, he come back now. Black people, what are you doing? How come you're not organizing? How come you're not hitting the street? And like I said, there's 4 organizations that need to get themselves together and unify, come together with a program, a direction for our people. Because eventually this integration thing doesn't seem like it's working, especially when the Caucasian brother doesn't want to integrate with you and he still want to think he want to dominate the world. That's Project 2025. We're going to bring back white supremacy and we're going to destroy democracy because democracy has a chance of making things even and equal. But if we destroy democracy, equality will definitely go out the window. The attack on DEI. What do you think Martin Luther King would say? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. He said that. I guarantee he'd say something that's God given. He made all men equal in the sight of the Lord. He includes everybody. And he's the author and father of diversity. Remember, Dr. King was a spiritual man. So he understands the mischief making and the bloodshedding going on. And he said, I see more mischief making now than I did when I was alive. Yeah, we had the Vietnam conflict and all that, but think about it. Think about it, my brothers and sisters. This is very disturbing. It's very, very disturbing. What else would Dr. King say? He would say one thing: the protesting against ICE is good. Protesting against ICE is good when they snatching people up, shooting, killing them, provoking trouble. That's how they're doing mischief making. Why? They're not de-escalating, they're escalating the issue. And that's by design. Because Trump wants to go in with the military and start shooting people. Warmonger, bloodshedder. That's being the devil. That's being the devil. And that's something we all have to understand. So again, brothers and sisters, Martin Luther King, one of the greatest black men in the histories of America. This ain't just black history, it's history, American history. But as I said, white people didn't like Martin Luther King. They got a great love affair with Martin. No, they didn't. They hated him. I know because I lived it. Bricks and rocks and dogs sicked on his followers and him too. So don't tell me they loved him. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we cannot partake in that because it means harm to our people. And we know that the true and living God wants you to protect yourself, protect your life, because he gave you life, so he wants you to protect it. Don't stand and get hit in the head with a bottle or a brick. So that's where they have philosophical differences. And I'm sure, I wasn't there, of course not, he explained the origin of the Caucasian. And one day we'll get into the origin of the Caucasian. So now, brothers and sisters, I'm just going to pivot a little bit because like I told you, I always do a little bit of history. And I've tuned into doing some Native American history. Because like I said, I have this issue. With my Caucasian brothers and sisters. I hear them every night on the shows talking about immigration and ICE and immigration and ICE and ICE and immigration. And we want the illegal aliens like they from outer space some damn place. Like they from outer space some damn place. They're not aliens. They're illegal immigrants according to you. But what I'd like to see is this. Because I see these shows, these late night talk shows and stuff. And I say, but they never say this. This is what I never see on none of them. Okay? You know them. They never show you any Native Americans up there, activists. They never show you them. You know that? They never show you no Native, because see, they go into the right wing, and the same thing, all in the same. Right wing, white wing, they the same thing. Keep that under your hat. That understand that, black man. If they say they're right wing, you might as well say the white wing. Because I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm conservative. I want to know if you got the money to pay for it. If you ain't got the money to pay for it, ain't no sense of trying to spend money that you don't have. Because what happens when you spend money you don't have? You go into debt. So I want to know, if we're going to get this, how are we paying for it? How are we paying for it? And that's important to me, brothers and sisters. But I'm going to pivot right back because I want to say something again about my Native American brothers, because I want them to come to understand. I mean, excuse me, they understand, but America don't understand. You talk about immigrants, and I'll say this till I'm purple in the face. Every Caucasian person in America is the descendant of an immigrant. Let me say that again. Every Caucasian person in America is a descendant of an immigrant. whether legal or illegal. You are not native of this country. And that's what I want you all to understand. That's why you never see no Native Americans on none of these talk shows. You know what I'm talking about. What are some of them shows? Anderson Cooper, ABC, World News. Not the one to come on Sunday with George Stephanopoulos. MS Now. Put some Native Americans up there and let's talk about this immigration thing. Huh? Let's talk about it. Let's see how the original people feel about immigrants. But you won't talk about that because it's a whole different ball game. I'm talking about one of the greatest tragedies that happened to my Native American boys, brothers and sisters. It's called the Trail of Tears. What was the Trail of Tears about? It was forced displacement and ethnic cleansing of about 60,000 Native Americans of the 5 tribes. Ethnic cleansing, forced displacement. They're in one place and they took them somewhere else. This is their land. And they came from the 5 tribes. They call them civilized tribes. I don't know what the hell that means, but I call them 5 tribes. I don't say civilized, uncivilized. They were people living in their land. The Cherokee, the Muskogee, the Seminoles, the Chickasaw, and the Choctaw. Let me say them again. The 5 tribes that were involved in this 60,000 Native American displacement. The Cherokee, the Muskogee, the Seminoles, the Chickasaw, and the Choctaw. Oh, and by the way, this is important for you black people, including black slaves. Black slaves that had run away and were living among their red brother. They living around their red brother in peace and took them too. And this Trail of Tears happened between 1830 and 1850. 20 years of displacing 60,000 people. And the one who initiated was the President Andrew Jackson. The Trail of Tears. So on Martin Luther King's birthday, brothers and sisters, he would be disappointed coming back here, seeing the rise of white supremacy. He thought that his works had gotten rid of, or there would be enough white people of goodwill to eradicate that. But those white people of goodwill have just about disappeared. There's still some here, sure there is. But they're now so few and far between that now you got to have the burden of proof to prove that you're a Caucasian of goodwill. Because most Caucasians stay silent. Not like in the 63 when the March on Washington. So again, brothers and sisters, I just want to thank you for all your support. And next week, I'll start getting them, go back into a little bit more black history. But again, I'm going to try to mention something about the Native American because he's the original American. And I'm sick and tired of hearing these people talking about ICE and the job they're doing. They're totally unqualified, Gestapo-like goons. A lot of money spent for nothing. Because all they're doing is causing terror. They're terrorizing the American people. And again, our president is not a peacemaker. He's a mischief maker. So again, thank you, dear Lord. Thank you all for all your support. May God bless you, keep you safe, and never forget that God is here and he will deal with the evil. This is what he does. He deals with evil. Just leave it in his hands. Thank you again. God bless.